G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. Welcome to Pivot the Path.
G'day golfers and welcome to Pivot the Path. As you know, we're an improvement platform, we're an improvement podcast, and we wanted to circle back and find our improvement pivot point for this week's discussion, which is all about how to reset. And as you know, we take impetus from what's happening of the week of sport. And this week has had a humongous week of sport. So I wanted to tie in what's happened around the world, what's happened around the globe in sport, and tie it back how you can be a better performer on the golf course. So, news from the fairways. Let's get straight into DP Tour, which had a really good first-time winner on DP Tour, his 3rd year on tour. Bogey-free Saturday, Sunday, which was really good. Alejandro Del Rey shot 12 under, 6 under the last round, and didn't have a bogey on Saturday, Sunday to have his first win. And I just love watching first-time winners on tour because he had obviously all his posse of fellow tour players, and they all rushed the 18th green. And it's just having been there myself, never had obviously a main DP Tour win, but you get that feeling of first-time winner, mates of wanting him to win, and I just think that's a great story. And then PGA Tour, Torrey Pines. Isn't it interesting? So Torrey Pines, obviously hell of a top 5, top 10 courses anywhere on the globe. And suddenly, instead of the first couple of PGA Tour victories having 25, 30, 35 under, now we've come straight back to 8. So Harris English, nice to see Harris back on the winner's circle. It's been a couple of years, but 8 under par for a 4-round tournament is what I like to see. It means they've got to, really guts it out and actually play some good golf. Usually the better ball strikers win when it's a good solid golf course like Torrey Pines. So ecstatic for Harris. Seems a good old boy. Hasn't won for a couple of years, so I'm stoked that he got back in the winner's circle. LPGA Tour starts next week. Live Tour starts in a couple of weeks. And so I just love the fact that we're back. We're starting to play some good golf courses again. We're ramping up to Augusta. It will be interesting to see how Augusta's looking because they have been absolutely hammered by the weather. And I know they've lost a ton of trees. Certainly down Magnolia Drive is going to be a different aesthetic because it is a very scripted business model. Augusta, they probably won't show Magnolia Lane. Maybe they will. Anyway, lead up to Augusta. It's going to be phenomenal. Elvis Smiley, he played DP Tour, shot 1 under, missed the cut. Cam Young played PGA Tour, shot 1 under, missed the cut. And Cam Davis and Mingwoo Lee did not play. So hopefully Chuj had a week off. Not sure what you're doing. Hopefully fly fishing there. And we've got a fantastic guest next week. Guest number 2. So we'll talk about him a little bit later, but we'll introduce him next week. And I am absolutely ecstatic. This guy is very, very funny. Ex-tour player, PGA Tour member, major player. Very funny individual. Australian. That's all I'll leave it. Now, where do we start? What a week of sport. Fresh off the Bills KC game. So let's touch a little bit on the lead up to the Super Bowl. So obviously the Buffalo Bills, which is a crowd favorite, I think, because they've never won the Super Bowl. So I was absolutely backing for the Bills to win. But then you've got Mahomes, who's probably will be the greatest quarterback of all time. Obviously, years will define that. But he's an amazing individual, and they've got Travis Kelce, and we love a bit of Taylor Swizzle in our family. So, ultimately, The youngs don't really care who's in the Super Bowl, but I think they should get they should get more technology involved. Pure and simple. There's not enough technology involved, and that's all I've got to say about that. Australian Open, Grand Slam, first tennis event. This is what we love to bring back the podcast here on improvement. Madison Keys won her first Grand Slam after competing 16 years on the Grand Slam circuit. And this story flew under the radar because of the NFL, because PGA Tour, and because Djokovic pulled out in the semi-final. And I just wanted to bring it back on Madison Keys and shine our little spotlight on her. I think she is an absolute remarkable individual. And the reason I would like to tie this into what we're doing, and a couple of other points here shortly, is because Madison Keys is a journey woman. She has been playing Grand Slams for 16 years. And to win against Sabalenka, who is just an absolute juggernaut, current world number one, and was the underdog going into the event. And post-round interview, she thanked her team. And actually, I did some digging on her team, and I couldn't find the name of the lady who was in her tight four. Obviously, she's her husband's her coach, and her trainer is the big buff dude. But I'm not sure who the lady is. It looked like her sister, but I don't believe it is. I actually dug for about an hour and couldn't find the last two in the group of four. So anyone out there, let me know. But the point we wanted to make was, here's Madison Keys. She's about 30. She's been a journey woman doing the Grand Slam circuit for 16 years, as we said. But she's recently opened up to a bit of sports psychology. And the interview asked, what have you been doing? And she said, I've just become honest. And I've stripped away the fact, and I think her quote is here, I've done a lot of mental work to understand that I no longer need to win a Grand Slam, i.e., take the pressure away from the event. Understand that to make you a whole person, you need to be more honest with yourself. You need to strip away and know that they're just titles. It's just noise. Grand Slams come and go. Not everyone can be a Djokovic or a Federer or a Nadal. Those three or a Tiger, those four individuals, they're enigmas. They're absolute one in a million. And to have Madison Keys step away, work on her personal journey, and present the best of herself in any given circumstance, which is what this podcast discussion's about this morning, to ultimately get the job done. Now, she's changed coaches. She's loved up. Her husband seems a hell of a great guy, top 100 himself, player. But to actually take a step back and just strip away all the noise, which is what I've been saying from the get-go, and understand how to be the best in any moment. So we wanted to tie back the Madison Keys performance and obviously give a shout out. I'm a tennis nut, so obviously I'm emotionally engaged in tennis far more than in the PGA Tour right now. The Australian Open was a phenomenal event because you've got psychological, physical, nutritional, mechanical, technical, injury prevention. We saw Djokovic pull out because of his torn left hammy quad. We're not quite sure what it is yet. Pretty disappointed in the Australian public, actually. They hammered him as he walked off. And I'm like, mate, this guy is the greatest tennis player of all time. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's clearly injured. He knows his body better than anyone. And the Aussies just gave him a bit of a hard go, and I don't think that was fair. But then tying it back to Djokovic, I heard an interview recently where a Channel 9 reporter had a one-on-one with him. I know it was filmed a little whiles back. And they said to him, mate, why are you so good? Why are you so calm out there? And I think Djokovic explained this better, which is the message I'd love you guys to take for your golf games. The PGA show's on, just finished last week, and there's over 1,000 vendors of the greatest putter, sandwich, bag, golf bag, all the noise. And our job is to bring it back to present the best of yourself in any circumstance, pre-shot routine for 15 seconds. Of all those 1,000+ vendors at the PGA show, there's a handful that talked about sports psychology. I try and instill this every day when swing members come in. How are you preparing your pre-shot routine? You should be able to write your pre-shot routine down. We touched on it last week with the putting pre-shot routine. And I just wanted to bring this back, how you can own your swing and own your game. Everyone should have a pre-shot routine. And unless you can write it down in bullet form, you don't have one. And you should have one for putting, chipping, pitching, get out of danger shots, short game, little flop shots or little crazy bump and run shots, recovery shots from a fairway, irons, fade draw, driver, and your fairway bunkers. Should be about 8 or 9 pre-shot routines. They should be under about 14, 15 seconds. And we should be able to write them down in bullet point. And getting back to Djokovic, he said, when the reporter asked, he said, "Why are you so calm?" He said, "I'm not calm. I'm like a duck on a pond." But every sports psych in the past lead up has said you shouldn't have negative thoughts. And Djokovic said, well, that's actually bullshit because I'm a human and humans, have mental ups and downs. He said, where I'm very good is I reset. I allow the thought to come in. And this is personal experience for me. I had sports psychs who time and time again said, you shouldn't have negative thoughts. And Johnny Novak, shout out. John Novak was my first sports psych who said, dude, you're a human. You're going to have negative thoughts. Let them come in, but he used to say, open the window and let them fly out. That was a little airy-fairy for me, but Djokovic said the same thing. He said, what I do better than most is when that negative thought comes in, he said, if you watch me, I'll always explode verbally, whether it's a shout, a slam, a stomp, or a little what have you, but then I move on with it. And he said, I simply don't spend time in that negative tone for longer than a wee second. He said, what I do is I reset better than anyone on tour. And that's why he's the world's greatest tennis player. Negative thoughts come in, like you're on the first tee and you're nervous. Okay, embrace it, but then let it go and know that you've got to get back to your pre-shot routine. I had a fantastic experience with our third daughter, Valentina, on the way to her basketball game. Won't go into it too much. There was some drama leading up to getting in the car that morning. It was Sunday morning. We had to leave the house pretty early. Vivi's in the car. She stormed out of the house. I'm like, kiddo, we're good. We're on time. And Valentina, because I'm a guy who can't stand being late. I don't think I've ever been late for a thing. Valentina's inherited, the girls have inherited that same trait. And she's like, we're going to be late. And I'm like, Bushy, we're not going to be late. We're on time. So she's in the car. She's bubbling over. I start the car. I waltz in. I'm a relatively relaxed individual. For about 5 minutes, we had 25 minutes drive. And for about 5 minutes, she was fuming. And we talk about tone in our house a lot, nearly every day. And so I thought I'll just let her go for 5 minutes to see where this is. I think this could be a lovely learning moment. She had a good basketball tournament coming up in 25 minutes. 5 minutes into the car, I'm driving and I'm like, listen, Valentina, you've got the choice for the next 15 minutes to either live in the tone where you are, which is negative and harsh and pushing and aggressive, or you can choose to accept that an outside influence occurred. In this case, the GPS said we were going to arrive 1 minute early. I said, so now you've had a narrative that you've created that's all very negative and pushing and trying, and I call this a very aggressive tone. There's a difference between being aggressive in sport and aggressive tone. To play great golf, one must have a light tone. And I know that sounds a lot of airy-fairy bullshit, but it absolutely is the fact that if you present the best of yourself in any given moment, your performance will elevate. And that's irrefutable. So Valentina's sitting in the car, grouchy bear. I said, right, you've got 15 minutes to decide where you want to be, because the tone you've got right now, you will not play great basketball. So it's a choice. You can either get dramatic and caught up with all the bullshit, or you can actually reset and you can define a channel where you need to be to play your best basketball. And for an 11-year-old to sit back, take stock of where her tone was, bring her tone from a really negative, aggressive tone to a very light tone. Within about 7 or 8 minutes, she changed the radio station. We had about 10 minutes to go, and she was a completely different kid. And both games, she played Saturday, Sunday, she crushed it both times. The point is, from a very young age, I'm trying to set the tone for our kids to understand where they need to be to perform at an elite level in their moment. And I cannot stress this enough. One thing that I didn't quite get on tour, even though Johnny Novak was just a world-class sport, so I sought him out, he's in Sydney. I probably wasn't ready to listen to John. I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to hear what he was saying. I would listen, but I didn't hear what he was saying. And getting back to Djokovic, getting back to Madison Keys, Sport, at whatever level you want to perform at, is about presenting the best of you in any given moment. And I believe in the consumerism we are in this golf industry, there is nowhere near enough on mental aptitude. And something that we talk about here at Swing a lot, I've got it on the monitors here where the sims are. Where do you need to be to present the shot you're trying to play? What is your pre-shot routine? And are you in the right tone level to present that 13, 14 second pre-shot routine to get the job done? And I cannot stress that enough. And so we talked about it last week in putting. Go through your steps, work on your blast, make sure your numbers are great, but then you must get back to your pre-shot routine. So in the vein of getting back to improvement, I just wanted to tie in, if you haven't seen the Grand Slam final between Madison Keys and Sabalenka, please put it on. Just watch the highlights. And then what I would recommend is get back to her post-round interview. Here's a sport where they play, in that case, 3-setter. They're probably going for about an hour and 15 minutes. She then has the trophy presentation, another half an hour. She then hangs out with her crew for about literally 5 minutes, and then she's straight into the press box like they do in the PGA Tour. She's had no time to process. And so what I love about the ATP Grand Slams is when they're in that press box, it is the rawest of an athlete I think there is anywhere in TV, more so than golf, because they're emotionally drained. They're physically drained because they've just been playing an hour and a half of tennis, and they just know that they've left everything on the tennis court, and you get the real athlete. And for Madison to look in camera when asked, geez, dude, why now? What's changed? And her raw, and please watch this interview. Take about 10 minutes out of your life. Just look at Madison. And she said, I got a psych involved, and it was less about sports psych. It was more about me. What do I need to do to become that elite athlete that I know I can? And I started not tearing up, that would be dramatic, but I listened to this lady, and to have a team around her that gets the best out of her, and then to strip back the BS and to say, what do I need to present the best tone or best mental aptitude in a Grand Slam? Bearing in mind it takes 3.5 weeks, and to come out victorious, especially over Sabalenka, who had stronger firepower. I just think she's not going to get the recognition. I hope she gets on all the late night shows here in New York. She is an absolute powerhouse to own her swing, and that's what we wanted to bring it back. And I think she's going to it'll be hard pressed for someone to outdo her this year in this world, in the calendar 2025 calendar year of elite sport. We're talking majors, Grand Slams, F1, NHL. What I think she's done is absolutely remarkable. She got a lazy 2.2 million. I wish that the women's sport had a slightly bigger platform. I'm sure that the Bills, Kansas City media will actually kind of quieten the Australian Open media juggernaut down, which is not fair, because that performance and the way she handled that 16-year journey, and I don't want to go on about it, but it's remarkable. And so do yourself a favor, watch the highlights, and ask yourself in that press conference, wow, that's very honest and raw. What do I need to do? Do I really need to have that vodka and Coke on a round of golf? Do I really need to have those 10 beers? Because most of the time with the circles that I'm involved in, most people have that booze because they don't have the attitude or the pre-shot routine, and they let themselves down. So look, have some beers with your boys on a golf course. I get that. But most of the time people drink too much because they don't have the skills that they wish they did. So our job is about, you don't need to have a gummy before you go play golf, because you should have a pre-shot routine to handle that. And I think that's the difference between what swing's about and what all the noise down at the PGA shows about, is that they're trying to say, hey, buy this gadget in lieu of owning your swing. And our business is about own your swing. You don't need a $1,000 putter. You can have a pre-shot routine and work on your alignment. You don't need to pop a gummy. You can actually learn to breathe. What did Djokovic say in his interview? Search that one out too. He said, I learned techniques to get me present. And that's what this whole podcast, my business, swing, our podcast is about. Our business is about own your swing. And that's not in a gummy. It's not in a $1,000 putter. It's in about stripping away what it is that's preventing you to be in the best attitude. Valentina, Matilda and Isabella, and Colt's just getting into his sport. My girls know what tone they need to be in to present the best attitude in. They don't need to be the best or the greatest basketballer. They're not the greatest talent on the basketball court, but by Christ, they've probably got the best attitude out there. And if they're in the middle of a basketball event and something isn't going their way and they get that negative tone back, breathe, pause, take stock. Where am I? Where do I need to be to present the best attitude? Now, with golf, we don't have anyone to rely on. And I think getting back to Djokovic, one thing Djokovic said in his interview was, I don't have a team. I can't have a day off. They said, why didn't you get a doctor out onto the court to survey your leg? And he said, I know where my body's at. I don't have anyone I can rely on. I knew I was nowhere near to be 100%. I knew I couldn't go on. I wasn't in the best physical frame of mind to get me to win this semi-final, and therefore there was no point going on because I could jeopardize some serious injuries. So, mate, power to you for walking off and owning your swing. Power to Madison Keys. That also brings me to an Aussie nutritionist. I thoroughly recommend you guys watch. It's called Mitch Little Academy. This guy is the epitome of no bullshit nutrition, calorie deficit, and explaining it. I've never met this guy. I've only stumbled onto him about 2 weeks ago, Mitch Little Academy. But if you want the epitome of how to understand how to just trim up and lose 5 or 10 pounds, he is the epitome. He gets all these social media garbage and he actually just debunks it in a very Australian, no BS, black and white way. Thoroughly recommend you actually jump on his social media handles because he, like Madison Keys and like Djokovic and like Own Your Swing, he's about owning your swing. It's about being consistently average. That's his take on how to be in a calorie deficit program. We are about being consistent. We are about coming in, spending 5 minutes on your putting. You don't need to hit putts for an hour. 5 minutes, get your pre-shot routine. When you come in here, you don't need 3 hours of practice a week. 1 hour of practice a week with methodical programming, working on your pre-shot routine will get you to break 80 every single time you play golf. You just have to be consistent. So they're my 4 takeaways this week. Love where we're at. Looking forward to the Pebble Pro-Am this week. And remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into the game off the golf course. So when you're on the golf course, present the tone, hit the ground running, and own your swing. Look out for the newsletter this week. We're always signing up and we're always presenting the best of swing. Beauty golfers, look, remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into your game off the golf course. So when you hit the ground, it's just unleash the tone and present the attitude to get the best out of you for 13 seconds. And remember, own your swing. Beauty. Thanks for listening.